Summary of the debate. Well, Bernie Sanders came out super strong in the beginning. He realizes that he's got a lot of ground to make up in the polling in the states coming up on March 8th through March 15th. This debate was held in Flint, Michigan, and he's got ground to make up in Michigan as well, and they're voting on Tuesday, so he's got to get going. So he attacked her on the super PACs, on Wall Street, and her taking the donations from those guys in the beginning. Very, very aggressive. I thought that was the best part of the debate for him. I'm sure that the establishment media will think otherwise. I think that rather than talking about the enormously substantive debate tonight, I mean, compared to the Republicans, it is unbelievable. They got into the minutia of almost every policy there was, as opposed to the Republicans who go, hey, little Marco, Lion Ted, oh, you should see my cock, right? So, I mean, it's night and day, the difference between a Democratic debate and a Republican debate. But it was spirited. I mean, they got at each other in the beginning. But my guess is the establishment media that loves that antics will mainly talking about Bernie Sanders' finger pointing towards Hillary Clinton, which he normally does, but he's on the other side. So it seems like he's pointing away from her. But now, when he was on this side, it looked like that, right? Now, I don't know. We don't know. The debate just ended. We'll find out. They'll talk about the interruptions. They'll talk about his body language, right? And they'll focus on that. That's based on our experience. That's what we think that they'll do. Now, when you get into the actual substance of it, he's right about the super PACs. But then when you got into the second part of the debate, she really won that portion on gun control. He spent too much time on it. Jimmy's absolutely right. During our live coverage, he mentioned that. And then it allowed her to come back and paint him as being soft on mass shootings. Mm-hmm. So she did a great job with that. Wes was right during our live coverage that she is so well prepared for these debates. And you got to give her credit for that. She comes in, she knows exactly what she's going to get, except two notable exceptions here. I thought she was caught off guard on the question about the lobbyist that's giving her money from the fossil fuel industry. She had a terrible answer to that. And then the super predator line, I thought she was caught a little off guard there as well. Didn't give a very good answer. But otherwise, she comes in and she knows what's going to get applause, and she'll pivot. Even in one of those answers, she pivoted it to something that the crowd was so in favor of. And I'll tell you what, we're going to get a Supreme Court justice under President Obama. Everyone's like, yeah. So she knows she's very skillful in that way. But when we were talking about mass incarceration, super predators, et cetera, that could have been a very tough part of the debate for her. I think she handled it overall, that whole section, pretty well, with the notable exception of that line on super predators. And Bernie Sanders blew an opportunity there. He had a chance to pounce and go, hey, look at her real record. Look at what Michelle Alexander writes in The Nation about her real record. Look, yes, Bernie Sanders was also voted for that crime bill, but he still had 1,000 different ways to attack on that issue, and I don't think he did a great job. I think that he lost some of his energy and his aggressiveness as the debate wore on, because I think, and let's be honest here, he's also a politician, right? He's probably the most honest politician of our lifetimes. He's had the same positions for 40 years, but he is in politics, so he's got consultants, and I'm sure that they told him, you got to go get her. But it's not really in his nature. So that as the debate wore on, he went back to being Bernie Sanders. Oh, Secretary Clinton is right, or I agree with Secretary Clinton on that. But no, say, hey, what do you mean? You don't know why you met with the lobbyists. We know why you met with the lobbyists, okay? I want to dispel the notion that you didn't know what you were doing when you took that super PAC money and the donor money and the lobbyist money. You knew exactly what you were doing, and they knew exactly what they were doing. Now, he said that early on, but he blew a couple of opportunities later to pounce on that. So overall, pretty good job by Bernie Sanders in the beginning, but I'm not sure he did enough in this debate. And I think that the media focuses on moments, either zinger lines or finger pointing or disruptions, and that'll probably be the story that comes out of this. So I'm not sure that is the story he wanted out of this debate. What did you guys think?
She's a master debater. Mm-hmm. She's really good, dude. Mm-hmm. No, it's, okay, look, I believe in evolution, all right? And if you have someone who's been beaten up in the press nonstop, had millions and millions of dollars in criminal investigations launched against her since the early 1990s, she's got every response ready. And she was prepped for every single topic, and she didn't notice, as much as Bernie was hitting her in the first half, she didn't yell. Like, I know Trump's strategy
Right in the beginning,
against
she
her,
did a little
there was
bit, but
and
then she
once
brought it back to-
reaches that tone, you're like, just because it's like your bed isn't made.
Right.
Get in here and make the bed. And I know it's sexist, but that's how a lot of men think about it, because it's that tone of voice where it's like,
No doubt.
you didn't do what you were supposed to do.
And they shouldn't think that way, and we defend her on that. But
we can't help it. It's like
Right.
it's like subconscious.
And Rubio sometimes yells in debates, and that hasn't worked out for him either. But she just did that in the beginning, and then she brought it back down, and I thought it was very smooth throughout.
And she took every opportunity handed to her and ran with it. There was no pausing. Anything that made her feel uncomfortable, like you're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from banks or polluters, she's like, here's another subject that's kind of related we can talk about. She was great at it.
You know, when Donald Trump says, he'll often say, you know, even though he doesn't get along with anybody and he's famously thin-skinned, he always loves to say, I get along with everybody because I have a responsibility to my family, to my company, and to my shareholders, and to my employees. I have a responsibility to do what's in the best interest of my company for all these other people who rely on me. And that's what I would like to say to Bernie Sanders. You have a responsibility to prepare better for these debates. You have a responsibility, because I know what he's thinking is, I don't want to be phony. I don't want to be overproduced. I don't want to have spinmeisters in my ear telling me what to say so I sound like a regular politician. The thing that I have going for me is I'm authentic. Yes, you can, but you also need to learn how to be authentic. See, here's the thing. So the difference between me as a stand-up comedian and a regular person is that who's also funny. They'll go, I know a guy who's just as funny as you. The difference between me and that guy is that when the improv calls and said, Jimmy, can you come be really funny from 9:15 to 9:45 tonight? Yes, I can do that. And that's my responsibility to my career and to those people in the audience and to the club. When they asked Bernie Sanders, can you come and be authentic and get your points across immediately from 5 to 7 o'clock tonight in Michigan, he should say yes, because I'm ready, I've practiced, I know how to say the points I want to say authentically, and he doesn't. And here's 3 big points that he missed, right? So why doesn't he bring up Laquan McDonald? Why doesn't he bring up that person? Why doesn't he show the Black Lives Matter people that he's more in touch with these things than she is? He didn't do that. When they were talking also about the crime bill and how what Hillary's done to hurt black people as far as incarceration, her super PAC takes money from the private prison industry, even though she's come out and says that we shouldn't have private prisons. And then she does the exact opposite thing, and that feeds right into his central message. He didn't even bring it up, which makes me think he's not prepared correctly, because you know this is going to come up, and you know that that's your hammer on her. When they bring up the gun issue, which he should have shut the fuck up about so much quicker, answer it quickly and move on. Hillary knows how to do that. He does not. He kept bringing that up. What he should have said was, well, I'll tell you this about guns. I got a D-, and we all know it, but Hillary Clinton, later on this month, is going to a fundraiser held by a former NRA lobbyist, okay? As recent as the last quarter of 2015, Jeff Foster, who's co-hosting this fundraising with Hillary Clinton, was an NRA lobbyist, okay? So we know, so that's how so this is what my point is, he's not prepared. He's going, I'm going to be authentic, my message resonates everywhere I go, and it'll resonate when I'm authentic because I've got the issues on my side. Yes, you do, but you also have a responsibility to be super prepared. And the people surrounding you right now are not preparing you, or they're letting you push them away from preparing you. Either way, you have a responsibility to be more prepared than he is, because he's got the winning position on almost every one of these issues, and you wouldn't know it by this debate tonight.
Wow. So for those of you who are not familiar with what happened with Laquan McDonald, I know a lot of you are, but or the politics behind it that Jimmy's alluding to, which not a lot of people are aware of. It's very important. So Laquan McDonald is a young African-American teenager who gets shot in Chicago as he's walking away from the cops. That cop is actually charged with homicide, so that's good news. But Rahm Emanuel and the Chicago PD kept that tape hidden for a year so that Rahm Emanuel could run his re-election efforts, and then they released it after he won that election. And so Hillary Clinton has backed him on that issue. So what Jimmy's saying is, if you then said, hey, how come you never talk about Laquan McDonald and the fact that you're supporting Rahm Emanuel, a guy who hid the tape for a year of this poor kid who was shot? I mean, that's
so he could win an election.
Yeah, and that's unconscionable. And I hope you're not doing that because you owe some sort of political favor to Rahm Emanuel, or just that you guys are friends, because that kid's life matters, even if you're friends with Rahm Emanuel. Boy, how powerful would that be? And you know what would happen? That would create a media stir, because that would be a fight. That would be dramatic, right? And that could get a headline. And that's okay to do that as long as you're right, as long as your position is correct and you're not throwing any mud on her in a way that's unfair. It's a perfectly fair question to ask. How come you never mention that kid, right? And more importantly, okay, you could say, oh, I mentioned many kids, right? But you are supporting Rahm Emanuel, and Rahm Emanuel has done several things. One is covered up that that tape for a year, which a lot of Black Lives Matter protesters are furious about, right? And then secondly, he shut down all these schools in Chicago, just like they're shutting down the schools in Detroit. How come you continue to back Rahm Emanuel? That's exactly what Jimmy's talking about. If you have that kind of preparation, you could put her in a spot she doesn't expect. I'd be surprised if she prepared for that question, because it never comes up, right? So it might catch her off guard. And if she does what she normally does, which is a smart debating strategy, which is, but Rahm Emanuel is an old friend of ours, not old friend, but is an important progressive, was chief of staff for President Obama. And I'll tell you what, I'm in favor of President Obama. The normal, she hides behind President Obama whenever she gets into trouble in any of these debates. I'm a progressive. President Obama, are you saying President Obama isn't progressive? Because he did it too, right? That's her favorite tactic. She does it over and over again. Then you say and go, okay, no, I didn't ask about President Obama. I'm asking you about two terrible things that Rahm Emanuel is doing that African Americans are justifiably furious over. Now, are you going to denounce those positions and Rahm Emanuel for doing those, or are you going to continue to back your political ally? That's it. Answer the question, right? Now, that puts her in a tough spot, but in order to put her in that tough spot, you both have to prepare and be aggressive. And Bernie Sanders is, he's been aggressive in fighting for progressive positions for a long, long time. But in a campaign, I don't know if he's ever had to be this aggressive against an opponent. So, and if you're trailing, which he is in some of these polls that are coming up in very important states, that's what you got to do. And today he began that, but this is past time of beginning that conversation. This is when you should start to end that conversation.